Welcome to the Sports Lounge, brought to you by the Sportsbook at Waterview Casino in Vicksburg.
Welcome into the Sports Lounge. I'm John Wiener. Television's own Ray Coleman back in the house.
Back in the building, man. Glad to be with you. And while I'm here, we're going to talk some NBA playoffs controversy, right? We got NFL predictions. Probably a little too early, but let's have some fun with it anyway.
Absolutely.
And we got an all-time great coming back home to take over a college program, man. Big time talk.
We're going to deep dish on college basketball and the corruption scandal, the latest with that hitting the SEC. And it is Kentucky Derby week. We'll see how much inside horse racing that we talk, but we will have an all-Kentucky edition of Table for Two. You know that's going to be good.
Yeah. Going back to the NFL talk, we're very excited to have Gerri Green join us for some good NFL draft talk. Talk about his dreams coming true, man. Definitely excited to hear about that.
Mississippi State star out of Greenville, a 6th-round pick with the Indianapolis Colts this past weekend in the NFL draft. So happened to welcome in Gerri and play a little game time. May have to dust out an old classic. I'm a wet Ray up and try to get one up back in the winners column. But
he still got confidence, that's for sure.
It never shakes.
Nice.
It never shakes. And the Sports Lounge never goes away. We're here every week online, all your Bash Brothers media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, BashBrothersMedia.com. So, Ray, let's jump into our starters. The NFL draft wrapped up, and I want to look ahead to next year at the NFL season. But real quick, just sort of your final thought, your big takeaway from the NFL draft.
Mississippi took the stage, if you ask me. You know, from big names and Montez Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons to DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown to Gerri Green, who we got coming up later, man. So many names. Greg Little from Ole Miss. So many names to talk about, man, showing that Mississippi absolutely ranks amongst the best, if not the best, when it comes to putting talent in the NFL.
Absolutely, every year, and it's why we're here in the Sports Lounge so much every week to talk about not just great national sports stories, but happening right here in the Magnolia State. When you look at the going forward to next year in the NFL draft, like, I want to know who's the next team in the league. And I don't mean who's the team to beat next year. That's probably still Tom Brady and Drew Brees and the Patriots and the Saints. But in terms of, like, that team coming off of this draft, Ray, that's set up to be that next team for 5-6 years, who are we talking about?
So, obviously, like you said, we never go against Tom Brady in the past, because as long as he's playing, he's going to be a contender. Depending on how long Drew Brees plays, I still say the Saints are a contender because, again, at the end of the day, they have the pieces, young and old, to contend right now. How about these names, though? The Houston Texans. As long as you got Deshaun Watson and you can build around him, things are going to happen. ISO Joe's team, the Colts. And the Cowboys. I'm a huge Cowboys fan, but if Jerry Jones doesn't screw it up, which he probably will, they have done some things in building this franchise the right way with young talent and not overpaying for veteran guys who are pretty much washed up.
When you look at, like, the teams who are next for, like, the first 5-6 year runs, they're mostly in the AFC, right?
Very true.
You know, you look in the NFC, other than the Rams, who are set, right, with talent on defense, young talent, and a young quarterback and a coach. Like, that's what you look for. Young defense that can play and a quarterback that's in place. You know, most of those teams are in the AFC, like, other than the Rams. But you look across the AFC, you mentioned the Texans, the Colts. What about the Chiefs with the talent that they have, especially at the quarterback position with Patrick Mahomes? And the Cleveland Browns. I mean, everyone look at the Cleveland Browns.
I was just about to say, look, I left them out, but can I just make one more drinking the Kool-Aid pick for the Cleveland Browns? Because I feel like
say drink.
I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers have taken a step back. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are ready yet. Cincinnati Bengals, forget about them. The Cleveland Browns have slowly but surely started putting things together, man, where they could be a sneaky pick for the next season.
I'm going to disagree with you there on the Ravens, and I'm going to stay in the AFC North and not talk about the Browns, but talk about the Ravens, because, you know, you talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers and, all of these teams that are turning their quarterbacks over. Ben Roethlisberger is one of those. The Saints with Drew Brees. The Chargers have a nice team, but Phillip Rivers, you feel like they're going to turn the page. I'm looking for teams with a really young, talented quarterback, a good defense, and an established coach. And Ray, the Baltimore Ravens fit that bill. I think Lamar Jackson has shown that he can be that dude in the NFL. I wasn't all in on Lamar Jackson, but I don't know how you argue with what you saw last year. Similar with Baker Mayfield. It was the #1 defense in football. In total defense, they're a young group. I like John Harbaugh. I think the Ravens are actually probably that team. But, like, what a group you got coming in the AFC. And I think Jacksonville, if they find a quarterback, can come, like, that whole AFC South.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so look, NBA playoffs. My favorite sport when it comes to just watching night in and night out. But they got a problem, John. the officiating is totally different when it comes to the regular season and the playoffs. Should they call it the same, or should it be a different style of play when we get to the postseason?
I think this is a really difficult one. And when you talk about the Warriors and the Rockets, which is like where this controversy comes. Now, you'll see it across the NBA in certain places, the controversy with, what are we talking about, like landing space interference. All of this controversy that came out of Game 1 was, the landing space interference, protecting the player, going back to when Zaza Pachulia did it against Kawhi Leonard, kind of stuck his foot out. Leonard came down on it, broke his ankle, and it changed everything for San Antonio. Like, this comes from Houston and Golden State. Ray, the Rockets are flopping. Something must be done. Like, it's a lame move. They need to draw the line. So I think the refs are right, like theoretically, in a vacuum, to say, we're not calling for this because it's a cheap play. Like, the Rockets are a flop in every sense of the word. Paul, Harden, Tucker, Gordon, you name them. Like, when they're going in, they're sticking their legs way out. It's a flop. But my problem is, you called it this way the whole regular season. And I don't think now, it's such a drastic call. It's so different and like flips everything from what the Rockets do. I think you have to draw the line. But I get Houston's point with D'Antoni and Harden and say, you can't do it now after you've called it this way all year. So I'm not sure, like in this sense, that you can have a difference in like playoff basketball and not.
And I'll take it a step further. Here's why they're complaining. And here's why everybody else is paying attention to it. Because when you call it a certain way, NBA players and athletes in general are very rhythmic. And what I mean by that is when they get a call, they expect to get it every single time because they are always set up to say, we'll adjust to the play, right? So if you're calling charges, then we'll get ourselves under control. If you're calling travels, they're the best players in the world. Don't tell me that they can't do two steps and not four. But you get what I'm saying? So you've set them up for 82 games, they've been playing a certain way, and all of a sudden it's like, hold up. We're going to do it completely different this time. Well, when that happens, these guys are going to complain. They're going to get thrown out because their entire way of playing the game for 6-7 months has now changed.
It's entirely what the Rockets' success is predicated on.
No doubt.
Like, it's what they built on, like James Harden getting fouled on the three-point shot.
It's the reason they're here right now.
The amount of threes that they shoot and the amount of free throws that they shoot. James Harden, a top scorer in the league the last 3-4 years, he has led the league in free throw attempts and free throws made each of those seasons. It's everything they do. And so when they came out in Game 1 and it wasn't getting called, D'Antoni had to blow up.
Of course.
You had to sort of put your foot in the ground. I compared it like on our Pop-Off podcast, which you can see Monday on Bash Brothers Media, kind of like a pitcher, who's continually working on the black, on the outer half. And if he doesn't get that call early in the game,
it's going to make a difference.
It's going to make a difference. And the referendum is set. The umpire doesn't call it in the first and second. He's telling you, I'm not calling this the rest of the game. And the Rockets are in trouble if not. So it's like, I get, like, they're in a tough spot. And I think the refs are in a tough spot.
Just for the record, they should have been calling it this way the entire time.
I agree.
Because I go back to it. James Harden averages 36 points per game, but it's because you let him get 4 steps. Nobody can guard him anyway, but if you're going to give him 4, he's going to average 36. These are the best players in the world. Make them play to a certain standard. I guarantee you they'll adjust.
It's always a conversation. Is a foul always a foul? And I think in the playoffs, maybe you don't call it as tight in terms of the physicality, but this is like a rule thing. And so it becomes a little more gray. And obviously the story with the Rockets and the Warriors. The story back here as it comes to the NBA, Ray, Lindsey Hunter takes the job at Mississippi Valley State. I don't think there's a harder job in college basketball. Before we, just your thoughts on Lindsey Hunter taking over at Valley.
Well, I think it's cool, man. Anytime a guy gets to come back home with the caliber of success that he's shown in the NBA, he can bring that back now to the Magnolia State and recruit guys in state to say, this is what I've done in the past. I know the path. Now,
you're right. He didn't do it in Itabena.
Now, you're right. He ain't done it in Itabena. You said, that's the toughest place, and not just basketball, football, you name it.
Well, there's no money there.
There's no money there. So if you're going to have to bring in a guy.
We know how important money is recruiting. Just wait for our deep
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Exactly.
But if there's ever a guy to bring in that doesn't have the resources to recruit properly, then it's Lindsey Hunter, because he can just go in and tell a story. I've done this. This is how you do it. Let me take you there.
It's a great hire for Mississippi Valley, experience or not. You have to flip the script and do something different, shake it up a little bit to get players to come to Itabena. And I think, hey, come play for a guy who had 17 years in the NBA, 2 NBA Finals rings and the credibility that he has, a Murrah guy, Jackson State guy, SWAC Player of the Year, I think it makes a lot of sense for Valley. And if you're Lindsey Hunter, you're trying to get your start. You know, and we saw Sean Woods have some success there and jump to the next level. So, you know, it makes sense for both sides. Let me ask you this on Lindsey Hunter, Ray. We have a big, fondness for this lineage of guards that we've had in the Jackson era. You can't keep it to Jackson because you've got to include Chris Jackson, of course, now Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Where do you put Lindsey Hunter in like the all-time Mississippi greats?
You know, when you sent me the topic, I thought about it, man. I said, why not top 5? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about a guy who, like you said, played 17 seasons, is a tenured NBA guy, and he's a champion. No, he's not Chris Jackson or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. That's a legit scorer who could go out and get 50 on you and hurt you bad, right?
Yeah.
I don't even think he's Mo Williams, right? He's definitely not Monte Ellis. But after that, I can start having discussions. We're talking about Hollywood Robinson, perhaps, you know. But
there's no doubt.
But it just depends. At that point, we start having conversations, so I don't mind putting Lindsey in top 5.
You know what's amazing with Lindsey Hunter is like he was an afterthought on his high school team, that Murrah team with James Robinson, you talked about, Jesse Pate, Ronnie Henderson, Othella Harrington. Hunter isn't quite like afforded that great status, I think, in Mississippi because even from high school, he was overshadowed. Like that's Murrah team was one of the great basketball teams in the history of high school basketball. And like Hunter was an afterthought. And, you know, even going to Jackson State, like he was a great player in the SWAC, but unlike a Ronnie Henderson at LSU and Othella at Georgetown, you know, wasn't on that level. But when you total it up all time, man, I think Lindsey Hunter's got a really, really good claim, and it's a good hire for Mississippi Valley State. Okay, Kentucky Derby this weekend, man. Are you fired up? Are you excited? Like, are you locked in on the handicapping and like you got your picks already? You got your bow tie ready to go?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
But I will say this.
Come on, man. We're trying to help the people out.
I understand, but I will say this. I have watched the last few Kentucky Derbies because it's always around the Cinco de Mayo weekend, which is a huge boxing weekend.
Yeah.
I'm a huge boxing fan, so I just make it one long day, right?
Okay.
I get to drink and start a little early.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Kentucky Derby.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's a part of the tradition of the Kentucky Derby, as a matter of fact.
And we're gonna get into all of that in Table for Two.
But if you're asking me if it's a top-notch event, me personally, I say no because I look at it like if we took the Kentucky Derby away, if we took it off of television, just let it be a in the state of Kentucky event, nobody cares. Let's just be real about it.
No, I'm going to disagree with you, and I think the fact what you just said, Ray, is a good point. You don't give a damn about horse racing. You don't follow it, but you've watched the Kentucky Derby the last 3-4 years. It's an American event. It's an American, almost an American holiday. It's a seminal event on the sporting calendar. It's the oldest running sporting event in America since 1875. They call it the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. And like I think the point of it is because it's so like infrequent, I guess, like you don't see that many races other than the 2 minutes, but like the Kentucky Derby for it, even in horse racing, to have a part in the pantheon in America, you know, of its own. Like it is so big, I think that it transcends the sport a little bit. It's something that I make an appointment viewing on my calendar every year, and like I like horse racing. I don't follow it that much, but Ray, I think it transcends horse racing and it is a seminal American sporting event.
If they took it away tomorrow,
$225 million wagered.
If they took it away tomorrow and they said, John, you can't watch the Kentucky Derby anymore,
I would cry.
You gonna lose some sleep?
I would lose a lot of sleep.
Would you stop it?
Barely getting
He ain't losing sleep. I ain't losing sleep. You at home not losing sleep. If you're there, it's a fantastic event. You get to wear your hat, drink your cocktails, right? Bet a little money.
I like cocktails too.
I know you appreciate that.
I like horses, cocktails, money.
But you would make the trip maybe, but you ain't gonna lose sleep if they take it off of television. If they took away the Super Bowl, would you be hurt?
It would be.
All right, then. That's a A-list event.
I think the Kentucky Derby. I'm putting it up there with the Super Bowl, man. I like it's more exciting. Now stay in the chair, man.
Fine.
We just got you back in the lounge.
I wasn't leaving.
We just got you back in the lounge, man.
I was just repositioning.
I do. I think it's like that's what I mean. I think the Kentucky Derby it is more exciting than the Super Bowl. You wait for the Super Bowl and then it's like it's a brutal. I mean, go back to last year's Super Bowl, the Super Bowl we had in February. Like I'd rather watch like the Breeders' Cup than last year's Super Bowl. But yeah, it's an A-list sports calendar event. Okay, let's go back to the NBA playoffs. Okay. I'm interested here in your answer because this is when stars are made in the playoffs, and stars are made within the playoffs in the last few seconds of the game. Yeah. The big shots. We saw Dame Lillard hit a 37-footer in the first round. That may be one of the great shots in NBA basketball history. Yeah. Where do you put Dame in terms of big shot guys left in the NBA? Like who are your top guys in the NBA playoffs right now, 10 seconds to go, game on the line, I'm giving this guy the ball.
All right, so if you give me Dame, I'm not going to be upset.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's the number one guy. I think the number one guy is Kevin Durant because he can, if you give it to him anywhere on the court, inside and out, he's guaranteed to get you a high percentage bucket. Dame should be up there. Jimmy Butler, believe it or not, Jimmy Buckets needs to be in that conversation because at the end of the day, he's not afraid. And part of making a big shot is giving it to a guy who's not afraid to take the shot.
And makes the right play as well. You saw this game, Hack and Hank, our director, talked about it a lot. Jimmy Butler had 31 points, was red hot at the end of the game, but gave it to Embiid for the final shot. Passed out of the double team. You see so many times, like a guy, James Harden, who's 5 on our list, I think rightfully so. It's not always about like getting the right bucket, it's making the right play.
Absolutely.
And so Jimmy Butler's there. That's a good one.
Yeah. And other than that, I would just say Kyrie Irving because he also has that attack mentality, not afraid to take the shot, and he's trained to make so many difficult shots that he makes the difficult look really easy.
When you look at our list, I agree with you. Kevin Durant, number one. He's the best scorer on the planet. He's a cold-blooded killer. Dame Lillard has sort of worked his way up. Like 3 years ago, you wouldn't have put Lillard like 2 over a Steph Curry or a Kyrie Irving. But when you look at, like, Lillard's like 8 for 10 from beyond 30 feet. I mean, he's hit multiple buzzer beaters in Portland, in the playoffs. So, like Dame Lillard, it's a little bit surprising that we got James Harden 5. But when you look at those 4 guys, like, that same flukiness that we talked about, like if it's not the call, like, I trust like a Kyrie Irving. I think he's got a little more of like that killer instinct in him than Harden.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, man. And again, it's all about your comfort level with the guy in the final seconds. Not saying that Steph Curry isn't a great scorer. He's amazing. Yeah. But if we're talking about the last shot, I want to give it to the guy who I've seen do it over and over again, and that's Kevin Durant. Nobody can guard him. Yeah. He's going to get off the best high-percentage baskets. So absolutely, if it comes down to the Golden State Warriors drawing up a last-second bucket, 2-time MVP ain't getting it. It's going to KD.
We got to wrap up. We need to do a Nikola Jokic segment like coming up because that dude is really good
and
really underrated. Enjoy him in that Utah-Portland series. Well, things aren't so enjoyable in NCAA basketball. The FBI corruption scandal spilling over, more fallout coming here to the SEC and maybe the state of Mississippi. We'll hit that in the deep dish coming up. And speaking of states, our Table for Two Kentucky edition. Kentucky Fried Chicken, bourbon, hats, like it's all there in Table for Two. Stay with us in the Sports Lounge.
Follow us online at Bash Brothers Media and share, like, and follow the show to enter to win a one-night stay for 2 at Waterview.
Hanging out in the Sports Lounge, he's John Wiener. I'm Ray Coleman. We got Hack and Hank, right? We got Josh the Juice. And then who else we got, man?
Well, we got Gerri Green coming up, a 6th-round pick with the Indianapolis Colts, of course, out of Mississippi State, which we're excited for. Got a latest edition of Gametime.
Which is quickly becoming your least favorite segment, right?
We got some new swag. We got a new game this week. And, like, I've just been, kind of figuring some things out here at the start. Like, look, I you know what I mean? Like, we worry about playoff time, man.
How'd you do last week? Because I know I saw the tape a little bit, but how'd you do last week?
I lost.
You lost to Corey?
In Mortal Kombat.
And I heard you were, like, up 1. But
he had Sonya.
And who you have?
I had Scorpion.
Jeez.
And lost.
And you
That's
were
what
up.
you got from you. Just give me the OGs.
Because
you sound like a disappointed dad who
no,
found
because
out
they
like
gave
the
you
kid,
the best
like,
player in the game,
again.
essentially.
I know.
They gave you the coldest player in the game. Gave him like the worst player in the game.
It was a brutal loss. It was like just a colossal failure.
And then congratulations, you get to come back and face me again.
I'm gonna wet you up today, though, man. We're feeling good. Let's bring in ISO Joe on the ISO cam. Joe, we got a deep dish for us, man. What's going on?
Yeah, big LSU news and NCAA basketball news, along with that FBI investigation that's been going on for a long time now, since 2017. So Will Wade back in the news, wrong reasons, and this time it's $300,000 that he wanted to give to a player to bring him over to LSU. So he's been caught again on the wiretaps.
Wow.
Joe, where are we in terms of like the timeline on Will Wade and this is like the 3rd different thing to come out on Will Wade from the same FBI corruption investigation, right?
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation because obviously Will Wade gets suspended by LSU after the first 2 kind of come out, and he's got this trial coming up, and so they suspend him because he refuses to meet with LSU representatives. Turns out April 14th, he comes back, decides to actually meet with LSU, comes back in. LSU reinstates him, basically clears him. I think what people thought was that, okay, maybe they know something. Will Wade denied the claims, showed them some sort of evidence, but now here we are a couple weeks later, back in the news, wrong reason. So it's an interesting situation now because, like you said, this is the third time that he's been called for an infraction.
Do you think LSU is, and by extension Will Wade, doing the right thing by essentially saying over my dead body, we're not saying anything and we're going to back our guy?
I mean, at this point, you almost have to, I guess, because you're married at the hip with whatever has happened at this point. Not to say other people are going to lose their jobs throughout the programs, but at the same time, you kind of made the commitment. You stood by him. If you brought him back, now you're kind of tied into the possible wrongdoing, I guess is what I'll say right now, since this thing is still under investigation. As far as outside of LSU, is LSU the only person who's in hot water right now? Is this...
Well, let me just say this. I think when it comes down to like an important addition to, that question of isn't it the right thing to do to stand by your guy, and you say you're married to him. I think we've also seen, and right here in Mississippi was a great example with Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss, and we saw it with North Carolina and Roy Williams, and we saw it with Arizona and Sean Miller. I think it's proven now that you fight the NCAA. I think this whole like cooperate at all costs, and I think the NCAA has Joe been proven a little kind of, I won't say toothless, but it seems now that more people, not just because, hey, we're married to this guy, they've seen the results and they've seen the kind of lack of credibility, gumption, effectiveness that the NCAA has.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue right now is the NCAA doesn't hold a lot of power in these sort of hearings. They don't...
Which is why the FBI steps in the first place.
Exactly.
That's right.
And so I think that's where things get interesting is that the FBI is so involved in this particular case and that this investigation is ongoing because I don't think the NCAA is really going to have a huge a fine or punishment towards LSU that gives them any reason to really step away from Will Wade right now. So it really comes down to how much the FBI is involved. And we know the FBI doesn't really mess, when they start coming out with this information. So obviously they've got a lot on Will Wade here, and they want him to be the fall guy.
And to go back to your question, Ray, and my worry with this at the start is that it's recruiting in the NCAA, and it feels like, again, the FBI doesn't miss, but you can kind of open a black box very quickly. And I think that's some of what, it started with Sean Miller and just keeps going and going and unfolding, and more people are, and more sports. I mean, college football, which doesn't surprise us, right? And even close to home here implicated.
Pandora's box, man. That's what you're afraid to have open because we all know. I mean, let's just be real. Can we be real for 1 second in the sports lounge? We're
always real in the sports lounge.
We all know what goes on. Behind closed doors and in plain sight sometimes, right?
Football, baseball, basketball, women's basketball, track and field.
But obviously it's gotten so egregious that the FBI has decided to get involved and shut this thing down to a certain extent. So that lets you know that it's gotten to a point where it's almost like, woof, like y'all are doing things so much now that it's starting to become a bit disgusting because they'll let some things slide, right? They'll let things slide. We've seen it.
Well, the sort of the interstate commerce, is part of it, but I think it's the exploitation here. It's minors, essentially is really where the FBI is stepping in, sort of minors being victimized and controlled by institutions. Like I think the fact it's underage kids, it's 16-year-olds, it's 17-year-olds that are ultimately being exploited. Now they're getting cash, but we know it's not that simple. I think, Joe, that's where they step in.
I think that's the bigger story with this is that it's not just about Will Wade and LSU. This is about cracking down and trying to make a change in the NCAA and the way that recruiting is happening because, like we've all said, we know this happens. We know that this goes on, this recruiting and, the money under the table and whatnot. I think this is way less about, Will Wade getting in trouble and more about Will Wade being the fall guy for something bigger. They're trying to make this push to make a change.
We've seen the latest come out of this and said, in one of the wiretaps, one of the witnesses was quoted as saying, when you're recruiting against Mississippi State, all bets are off. I don't think whether you're Kermit Davis at Ole Miss or certainly Ben Howland at Mississippi State with the Adidas connection, all of a sudden this major spike in recruiting talent. I said it when it first happened. I said I'm not dumb or naive enough to think that that same thing isn't happening in Starkville. Frankly, I think it's happening all across college basketball.
That's
but
right.
Is Mississippi State, I don't know if they should be worried here because they are, I mean, Alabama football was implicated in this. It's kind of like across the board. I don't know if you can single one school out.
You can't. And that should be the scary part, though, is because one school is not going to single it out. Kind of goes back to what ISO Joe said. You know, Coach Wade will be the fall guy, but he may be the first fall guy. I think the problem for all coaches and institutions moving forward is that nobody is above getting nailed down on this one. So I think that's the bigger worry. If you've done anything, whether it's been tapped or a paper trail is attached to it, you may be in trouble. I'm not saying that the FBI is going to bring down the entire NCAA. I don't believe that'll happen.
Well, but see, that was the deal with the FBI, is to sort of disagree a little bit. Is like people were skating by. Yeah. No one was getting nailed. You have recruiting violations, you have academic violations, and you just go to another school. I mean, we've talked about John Calipari a lot, Bruce Pearl, Jerry Tarkanian. It doesn't matter. You find it, and I think until the FBI, came in and said there's real jail time here, this is a federal deal, this is possible, I think people didn't think they were going to pay. So I think the question that you have to ask ultimately is like, what's the end game here? We know that it's happening all across college athletics. We know that you can't single a school out. It's not an answer that we'll be able to get to in this remaining very short deep dish segment. But like Joe, what's the end game here? Like, what's the ultimate result?
I think they're pushing for a change in this recruitment, like I said. And I don't know what the answer is. A lot of people have talked about the paying of players or whatnot. I think it's going to be some sort of variation of that, but I think that is the end goal of the FBI, is to kind of scare them straight. Maybe give some more power to the NCAA and punishments, something of that sort, to figure this all out.
Yeah. Well, that's this week's Deep Dish here in the Sports Lounge. We have a lot of fun, but also a lot of great insight and real conversation. So let's move to our Table for Two edition right now. And it's become, I know, one of our favorite segments in the Sports Lounge. We had an all NOLA edition last week. Corey was in the house, so, figured good to had a New Orleans Table for Two. And, had Rod Walker on the other side of the break, so we doubled down on that Crescent City. Joe, what's on the Table for Two this week?
Well, for our new viewers, Table for Two, I give you 3 options, and you guys get 2 to sit down with you at the table. So, this week on the Kentucky Derby edition, we've got bourbon, rocks, julep, and bottle.
Okay. All right.
Is this like our choices on how we serve the bourbon? Rocks, mint julep, of course, the Kentucky bourbon drink, and just the bottle? Well, I don't know, man. Can I say that I would only take the bottle? I think back in the day, at one point, I used to show up at college parties with just like the bottle in the hand.
No, of course you did.
I mean, I didn't need any mixers. Like, I'm here. You didn't get an invite. You just show up with like gripping the fifth. I'd like to think I've matured and moved on and come to a more refined lounge. I like julep. I like rocks. I'm going to, maybe back in the day or when no one's watching, it'll just be me and the bottle, but I'll go rocks and julep.
Well, I have not matured, so clearly. Rocks, absolutely. You can put it on the rocks. That's why that's the way bourbon is supposed to be served, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Bottle, man, why not? Because I've just
why not is right.
Why not?
What am I saying?
I mean, at the end of the day, the mint julep, I've had one. It's nice. It's lovely.
You've had one.
But come on. The bottle. It's the bottle.
Mint julep is good.
It's the bottle.
Man.
Be real.
Really
it's the bottle. I know it's good.
I think if I was being real honest with myself, but we got to keep up appearances, man. You know, so
mint julep.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it classy at my table and rocks and julep. All right.
I might be taking the bottle on that one.
Of course you will.
You're 23.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Kentucky Wildcats. We got Cousins, Cat, and Wall.
So are we talking the Kentucky versions of these guys, or are we just talking about full careers?
Full careers.
Yeah.
Full careers. All right. Well, that changes things.
Which is why we leave Anthony Davis off.
Okay.
Because, like, he's a no-brainer.
I got you. That changes things a little bit for me then. I'm going to go Cat, and I'm going to go Boogie. John Wall has not met the expectations, I guess, maybe I just set for him. At the end of the day, I thought he'd be so much better than he is not. So I'm going to go Boogie and Cat.
Wall has been a terrific NBA point guard for a long time. He's come up short in the playoffs a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm a John Wall guy. And I think, what was it, Game 7 last year or 2 years ago when he came up pretty soft in the end of that game. He was really good. the rest of the series. I think Wall is a number 1 pick. The expectations were high, but if you go back and look, I mean, John Wall has been an NBA All-Star. Now, all 3 of these guys are, but I got a lot of love for John Wall and the way he plays the game and the excitement. And I'll go Boogie Cousins here. Ray, I think Cat got exposed as soft a little bit. I think he's been exposed in the league. And, like, we don't do soft at the table for 2.
That we don't. I agree with that.
We want character. We want swagger. And, like, I don't know if Carl Anthony has it, man. He kind of got punked by the rest of the league and his own team. Like, Boogie he may be a merc, but he's not a punk if you can, like, understand the distinction. Like, I've been Team Boogie for a while, and I think John Wall has just been a terrific NBA point guard. No Cat.
I'll take a soft 25 and 12 though. It's okay with that.
It is soft
I'm okay 25. With a soft 25 and 12. So that's just me. I'll go with Cat.
I like this next one here.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But next up, we got Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we're going with leg, wing, or thigh.
See, I'm gonna go ahead and ruin this segment right now because. What about the guys who don't eat meat off the bone like myself?
What do you mean you don't eat meat off the bone?
I don't eat a leg, wing, or a thigh.
What does it have to
about
be?
The
Like, what do you want?
nuggets, man? Yeah, I do want wing. I do want nuggets.
Like, go
tenders.
Microwave them with some Easy Mac, man.
You know what? We're gonna discuss this later.
We're talking about like good old style, like fried chicken here.
I told you I was gonna wreck it.
Nuggets.
Hey man, for the purpose of this table, because I'm a professional, give me a leg and a wing. But I'm telling you, we are discriminating in a major way because at the end of the day, we don't have tenders or nuggets.
Tenders is like kind of that's you want to talk about soft, man. It's tenders and nuggets. Don't bring no damn nuggets to my table, man. Leg and thigh.
Okay.
Like, I used to be a wing guy. I think a thigh is just like a heavenly piece of fried chicken. I like the leg because you just grip it and rip it. Like the wing, you kind of got to do a little bit of work. There's not as much meat on them.
Yeah.
Leg and thigh, but at no time is it going to be like tenders and nuggets over the real fried chicken.
I'm really upset about this.
Unbelievable.
I am really upset about this.
No bones in it.
So you
now, hold on. So let me go one more. So like when you talk about like I'm gonna go eat wings.
I told you I was gonna wreck it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go eat wings.
I want boneless wings.
Boneless
I'm going
wings.
to Buffalo Wild Wings.
We gotta stop this segment.
Stop.
We gotta just like cut this whole sports line segment.
No. Never.
Never nuggets and tenders. What else you got, ISO
Come
Joe?
on, ISO. We'll discuss this later. Go ahead, ISO Joe.
Hopefully you'll like this one better. We got the best derby coming up. Home Run, Kentucky, or El Clasico.
I do like this one, and I'm probably gonna be left out in the cold on this one too. I don't care. I hate the home run derby. I hate it.
No, I'm with you. We're low
okay, good.
It's on this
it's
one.
the most overhyped thing ever. Once you see a guy hit 3 home runs in a row, it's just like, all right, change the channel. The Kentucky Derby, like I told you, I watch it because it's a part
of the derbies, like the Kentucky
it's
Derby.
D1.
For sure. Yeah.
And El Clasico, man, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I know what that means when it comes to Real Madrid, right? I know what that means. Yeah. So at the end of the day, Kentucky Derby, El Clasico.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, again, like these, it would have been interesting to hear our table for twos like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because I probably would have said the home run derby when you had McGuire and Griffey and Bonds and all those. But I'm with you. I don't have much for the home run derby anymore. I'm on record with the Kentucky Derby as a seminal American sporting event. For those of you who may not know, El Clasico, like in soccer in Europe, they call rivalries derbies. The Manchester Derby and the Liverpool Derby, and of course the great rivalry in soccer right now is Real Madrid and Barcelona, and I'm all in on those. I love watching, Ronaldo and Messi and the talent and the spectacle. So yeah, we're there as well. Kentucky Bourbon, El Clasico at the table. Hey, that's a lot of fun.
We actually agreed on something.
I'm glad you both took Kentucky Derby because this next one kind of fits right in. So we got style coming up.
Nuggets,
hat,
unbelievable.
Bow tie,
tender,
seersucker.
I'm gonna let you go first, sir.
Okay, well, I'm not a bow tie guy ever. I think you can make the seersucker suit look good. Like, it's a little, it's the Kentucky Derby here, like, style. I was going to use some words that I shouldn't use. I'll go seersucker, and, you got to appreciate a good-looking woman in a cool hat.
No, absolutely. Listen,
no bow ties, though, man.
The hat's got to stay. The bow tie, although I don't wear them, every time I see a guy rock a bow tie the right way, it gives off this look of real swag and sophistication. It really does, all right? On the opposite, every time I see somebody in a seersucker suit,
clown.
I'm just like, what are we doing? It looks like we're going to the circus or to the county fair or something like that. And for anybody who wears a seersucker suit, if I see you outside of a seersucker suit, I guarantee you're probably the best person in the world. But when I see you in a seersucker suit, my first impression is like, come on, man, what are we doing? So seersucker suit will never have a seat at my table. If you see me in one, slap the taste back into my mouth. Not out of it, back into it.
I would
All
go
right.
to the circus in a seersucker and just round them up, Ray. Man.
Well, you be in the right place.
Just clean them up. And not the Derby, but the circus for the seersucker. Nope, I'm going to have a good-looking woman in a hat. I'm going to be in a seersucker suit.
Yeah.
We're going to be eating legs and thighs
Yeah.
and, like, watching the dirt. Yeah.
You might well rock the bow tie. Just finish that whole thing off.
I'm actually like, and maybe I'm just not as sophisticated and stylish as you.
Well, I can't rock a bow tie either.
You can't pull the bow tie off.
I can't pull it off. I have to have, the long necktie. But at the end of the day, but every time I see somebody in a bow tie who does it the right way, it does give off a good crisp, clean look to the suit that they're wearing with it most of the time.
So I've got a seersucker suit I'm ready to rock for a Kentucky Derby on a party on Saturday.
Sorry, I won't be there, so it's cool. Do your thing.
But you would clown me if
But
I
I would
was.
clown you if I was.
What if it like not they have the blue seersucker, like the pink seersucker, like
I'm sorry.
can we go in? You're
just
out on that.
seersucker in general. I gotta have you at that point.
Always fun table for two. Always a great time in the sports lounge, hanging out with ISO Joe, Hack and Hank, Josh the Juice. He's Ray Coleman. I'm John Wiener. We're getting big time in the sports lounge. Colts draft pick, former Mississippi State star Gerri Green, going to join us next. Stay with us. You're in the Sports Lounge. I'm John Wiener. He's television's own Ray Coleman. Ray, we're about to get big time in the Sports Lounge and welcome in recent Indianapolis Colts draft pick out of Greenville by way of Mississippi State University, Gerri Green. Gerri, thanks for joining us in the lounge tonight. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Gerri, congratulations, first of all, on getting drafted. If you could just share what was it like for you the day and getting the call from the Colts and getting drafted in the NFL?
It was a great experience. I was glued to the TV for the whole 3 days. The first 2 days I got to see a couple of my teammates get drafted, which was, great to see. I was happy for them. Then just patiently waiting Saturday. Then 6th round, this phone got a phone call. Look at the call I did with Indianapolis, Indiana. So at that point in time, I knew exactly who it was. And, I answered the phone. They introduced themselves to the Colts, and they just went from there.
Gerri, obviously, the dream is fulfilled now. You're an NFL player. I'm not going to ask you who you wanted to go to, but when you hear the Indianapolis Colts, man, that franchise, that organization, what does it kind of drum up in your mind? Do you feel like you were drafted by a great organization?
I do. They're a well-respected organization. A lot of history and culture throughout the organization. So I'm blessed to be a part of it, and just, can't wait to get up there and just be around those guys in their locker room.
Gerri, you mentioned your guys who got selected at Mississippi State, your teammates, 3 guys from the defense alone on the first round, and you had to wait a little longer to get your name called. What did it mean for you to see them go in the first round on that great defense that you guys had? But does it also, motivate you in a way to say, hey, I can be as good as those guys first round or 6th round?
I didn't know when I expected to hear those guys' names be called, the first night. So when they did, it wasn't a big surprise to me. I was just happy for them. But it's just, I think it speaks more of for our defense and how good we were this past season at Mississippi State. For those guys to go on that first night and just the things we were able to accomplish on the defensive side of the ball. But it took the whole defense and. Those guys know that we did it together. It wasn't an individual thing, and that what made us great because we played together as one unit.
So, Gerri, with you being more of a late round pick, man, so what's your realistic expectation? You just said you feel like you're on par with those guys. Do you expect to start in Indianapolis, or is it something where you feel like you need to kind of grow some parts of your game and work your way up? What's your expectation for this upcoming season?
For this season, I'm just, going in, first I'm just going to, make the 53-man roster. That's my goal. Just, to go into camp and make the team. I want to make the team that whatever role is my role for this season, I'm going to do my, get to the best ability, But, I'm going to walk in the door first day, giving them my best and trying to be the best and just get better every day. And that was my the way I did in Mississippi State, just gave my all every day and, it worked out for them.
Mississippi State star Gerri Green with us in the Sports Lounge, drafted by the Indianapolis Colts here over the past weekend. And Gerri, watching you since you came from Greenville, you were a major recruit for Mississippi State, but, coming from where you came from, also a little bit of unknown, and then you had an injury that you had to work through in Starkville there early on. You switched positions, moved out to the edge, were on the defensive line some. Just looking back on it, what do you make of your journey from Greenville, Weston High School, all the way through Mississippi State and now to the NFL? I mean, you've been through a lot.
Yeah, and I have my career just from high school to college and even with the college. It's not the typical one, though. Just having in college 5 different D coordinators, 5 different position coaches in my time there. But, all that, I was able to, come out on top. I was able to learn from it. I didn't take it as a built-in excuse and, just say, hey, this is the hand I dealt, it's time for me to fold. I took the hand I was dealt and made the best of it. So it made me a better person. I learned from it. I worked through that adversity, and I probably wouldn't have it any other way because I feel like it made me a better player and a better person.
Gerri, we've heard all the scouting reports, from not just yourself, but every player that got drafted, they specialize in one thing, whether it be, good hand placement, of explosive speed. What's the one thing that you feel like you can bring to the Colts right now that when you say you show up for mini camp or whatever it is, training camp, what's the one thing that Gerri knows he can dominate at right now?
I think the thing I have is my effort. They will pop out on film. I'm always around the ball. No matter what the ball is, I'm always going. No matter what quarter, beginning or end of the game, I'm always just going and going. And I just think the effort I'll bring, he's gonna be there day in, day out, game and in practice. So I think that's a great thing to have.
Gerri, when you look at the Mississippi State guys who've been drafted and gone to the league, especially on the defensive side of the football, Chris Jones on the defensive line, Benardrick McKinney at linebacker, Darius Slay at cornerback. Mississippi State has seemed like carved out quite a niche for themselves in the NFL and really proven that, hey, these state guys are ready to play, ready to hit, ready to work, and ready to get after it. Does that give you confidence? And have you kind of talked with any state guys sort of already in the league and look to maybe guide you to having that same impact?
I haven't talked to them, since everything went down, but just over my years at state, when they come back and we talk to them, they just continue to tell us, keep doing what we're doing. And it's like that because that's how they left it. They left a culture down the defense side of the ball that, when you play Mississippi State defense, we play it only one way. And that's why, we continue to play like that. So when we get a chance at the next level, as long as we continue to play like we've been playing, do things we've been doing, we seem to be okay. But, I'm going to reach out to those guys, before they probably reach out to me. But, I'm going to look to them for advice and just, tips for how to adjust to the next level.
How prepared do you think you are for the adult life in the NFL, going to Indianapolis, being on your own, being with the team for the first time? I mean, that's got to be a huge step in its own right, not just going from college football to the NFL, but you leaving Mississippi State, as a student athlete and becoming a professional.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm really excited doing that, It's just like graduating college and going to get a job. So that's how I look at it. I'm leaving college and going to get a job. And my job happens to be in the NFL. So I'm excited about this new chapter in my life. It's my job. I'm on my own, doing things, going to work every morning. So I'm really excited about this new beginning.
And Gerri, finally, I know a lot of people, myself included, still shook their heads a little bit at 3 first-rounders from the Mississippi State defense, and then you coming on later, and a team that went 8-5 with the #1 scoring defense in the entire country. But I'll just ask you, how special was that defensive group for you, kind of looking back on it with Simmons and Sweat and Abram and you and Peters and just all of those guys in that group you guys had at Mississippi State?
It was super special, and we knew we had a chance to be special from that spring, and it just, the things we were able to do, it was amazing. I'm look back at this season like, man, that was a fun ride, and it really fun. I remember on the way back from Oxford, me, Jasper, and Montez, we were sitting at the front of the bus, and we were like, man, it's over with already. It went by so quick, and we were just like, yeah, glad we got one more, and we just talking about referencing the bowl game, but it was fun to play with those guys. I miss playing with them. And, one of the best times of my life.
Well, Well, Gerri, it's great that you have so many, football days ahead of you. Drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. What a great career you had at Mississippi State, coming out of Greenville. So congratulations to you. We wish you the best of luck going into Indianapolis, and we appreciate you hanging out in the Sports Lounge with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, man. Congrats.
Gerri Green with the Indianapolis Colts, ISO Joe's Colts, coming out of Mississippi State. And Ray, I think what Gerri Green talked about is what stood out to me for him since he came from Greenville. Yeah. Greenville's not an easy place to come from and play football. Yeah. Mississippi State's not an easy place to go and play right away in terms of the talent that they have on the defensive side. But big kid, physical kid, hard hitter, but the hard work is what he said. When you say, what's your attribute? He said, I work hard.
No question, and you can tell that's ingrained in him. That's why he was drafted. You know, he may not be as explosive or as great of a player as Jeffrey Simmons and Montez Sweat, but when it comes to effort, Gary's right there at the top, right? So that's what got him to this point, is what's going to continue to propel him into a top-notch player. If he keeps that attitude, he's going to be good. The thing that stood out to me when you asked him, how is he looking forward to making that transition to being a professional, an adult? Well, Gerri was on the academic student council 2 years in a row, 2017 and 2018. So it shows that his mindset is not just athletics. I think he'll make that transition fine, and it also benefits him to know that he's a guy who's going to show up to work every single day and treat it as such.
And I think the Mississippi State guys, their track record in the NFL gives NFL teams confidence in drafting them. But I think in some kind of way gives State guys the confidence to say, hey, other guys like a Fletcher Cox from Yazoo, same kind of deal, from the backwoods and the Delta by way of Mississippi State. And then all of a sudden a first-round pick in the NFL. Gerri went, obviously in the 6th round. We appreciate him joining us. One thing Gerri Green will do, and ISO Joe will like this, Ray, he will put you on the ground.
Yeah, he'll put the wood together. No problem.
Gerri Green will thump you. Well, speaking of thump, that's the way it's been in game time here the past couple of months in the Sports Lounge. We're going to dust off the mini hoop. I'm about to just wet Ray up. Game time coming up next in the Sports Lounge. Stay with us.
You are in the Sports Lounge. Follow us online at Bash Brothers Media and share, like, and follow the show to enter to win a one-night stay for 2 at Waterview.
Hey, we're still in the Sports Lounge. Game time coming up. I'm John Wiener alongside Ray Coleman. Ray, we got mini hoop this week. We'll explain the rules to the audience. You're going to get 5 shots. We'll alternate. Most shots wins. And as the sadly resident champion here, it feels like every week, no matter who's in the Sports Lounge, they're the resident champion. You get to pick whether you want to shoot first or shoot last.
I'm gonna shoot last. How you feeling right now?
I feel like I'm ready to step up and turn the tide here in game time. Like, this is the week in the Sports Lounge. Like, we go into playoff mode, we press the button, we flip the switch, we got all of our pieces, figured out. Like, I feel good. I feel like it's time to play.
I do feel like this is the best chance that you've had thus far. I really do. So we'll see.
I thought Jenga, like, I was really confident.
I did too.
And
Real talk, I did too.
Last week losing to Sonya with a 1-0 lead in Mortal Kombat was pretty rough, but like, it's a new day.
I played against you, and I know you can shoot, so I'm giving you that.
So I'm about to step up and wet up.
And as you say, wet up.
A little strong. It's all right. We'll get
bank not over. It's all good.
It's all good. The bank is closed. Also a little strong. It's all right.
One made.
You see how pretty that was?
Well, it
Let's
wasn't
see what
pretty.
you can do with some pressure, man.
It wasn't pretty.
Better start shooting. Yeah, that's a little short.
Oh my goodness.
It's a little short.
It was a little short. You
told
make 2, the
man.
pressure's on right here.
Don't step up to me, man. You used to wet this up.
He saw his chances right there.
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better.
I know.
It's better. I don't know if you're going to make one, man. Like, that just might do
That's
it.
insulting.
That might do it. That might do it.
John's got the worst seat in the house, by the way.
You came closer to Josh Clegg than you did that
This is 3, right?
Yeah, this is my third
It's
shot
round
here.
3, okay.
Starting it off.
So that means I would have to.
Gotta line it up.
How did I go from? Okay. So I think I might have felt it.
What's that? Tied up with 2 rounds left?
Round 4. Let's go. If you make this one,
it's just so bad.
Okay, it's all right.
That's just awful.
It's all right. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Here we go. You got to make this one. The pressure's on.
You made that one, right? So this has to go for me to stay.
I know the nets didn't move. It's water like that. Oh my goodness. So sad. I might well take my last shot. I might as well, even though it's not necessary. Yeah, we should have. Y'all make sure y'all screenshot that at the end too. Like, save that. Stay in the same spot. Game time. Let's go.
Man, you suck, man.
Game time. Game time. Game time.
The Sports Lounge is brought to you by the Sportsbook at Waterview Casino in Vicksburg, giving you the edge in sports betting.
Game time in the books, and there's an old saying around the Sports Lounge. Well, at least there is now. It's called winners win.
You've been saying that for a while now, but
I have
it continues
been. So
to prove true, apparently.
That's how I know it's a saying. So without further ado, ISO Joe, can you give the folks at home a brief synopsis, if you will?
The official tally, so to speak.
Yeah, it was just about the same as every single week. Ray Buckets Coleman comes in and wins it 3-1 against John Wiener.
I like the way you said that. By the way,
What you got?
to the folks at home, did y'all see the way that my man wouldn't let me get at the free throw line for my last shot, and so I just said, forget it, I'll step to the side and let it fly? Did you notice that the Nets didn't move?
Can we talk about something else?
I mean, we are going to talk about something else.
We have to do this every week.
We do, because it's a segment that's built into the show.
I know, it's a segment that I built into the show, but I didn't know it was going to be 1-6.
Oh, man. I will say this. When you made your first one, I said, okay, here we go. Because like I said before, I thought this could be your best shot because I've seen you play.
And then sadly, that's why I like how we alternated. You hit a couple of buckets, and all of a sudden, I could feel you getting hot, and I just melted.
For the record, we did offer to go, hey, 5 straight, but John said, nope, we need to alternate.
It was a good addition to the Sports Lounge. I'm at least proud of that.
It's awesome.
We're playing hoops in the Sports Lounge.
I look forward to playing it again.
I got to find something I can win, man.
Well, I told you what to do.
Yeah, but then if I lose in that, then I'm really SOL without
I
a
didn't want to
paddle,
tell y'all what it is because
we'll get there.
Well, John's hit a bit of a rough patch as far as put your money where your mouth goes as well. He picked up a loss last week. Him and Corey both had some good picks, but unfortunately fell a little flat for John.
I'm going to go with Team Patrick. Patrick Cantley and Patrick Reed at 12-1.
So I was looking at the teams, and I really like the team of Jason Day and Adam Scott. I feel like that's a strong team.
Ray, we had to, with Corey in here, we had a little New Orleans flavor. We said, sure, let's pick the Zurich Classic. Sure. It's kind of picking a needle in a haystack a little bit when you're just picking a winning golfer. But we kind of got a little bit of the same thing this week. It's Kentucky Derby weekend, so we got to pick some horses, right?
And if you hadn't noticed, I know nothing about horse racing.
You don't have to tell them that, man.
Besides the majesty that goes with it.
They think you're a regular like Jimmy Roberts.
Man, absolutely. I'm sure they do. But for this segment, I'm 2-3. I need some catching up to do.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about this, so I'm going to say it.
Okay.
And I'm going to say it with just,
Own it, man.
Okay, you know what? Let's do it then. I'm going to own it.
Own it.
Game winner.
Give us a winner.
Your
winner is game winner.
It's game winner. 5-1 odds.
I see what you
to
did
win
there.
the Kentucky Derby. I'm going with them. Let's see what happens. I'm feeling pretty good about it because my man John Wiener told me to put it out there with confidence.
Well, now I will say, first of all, it's a 5-6-1 favorite game winner, and if you're looking for what I like to do in looking at the Derby and again trying to pick a horse may be a bit of a fool's errand, but Bob Baffert, when you're trying to pick a trainer, he's got 3 horses in the top, I think 4 or 5, and Baffert's a guy that continually wins big Triple Crown races. So game winner, that's not a bad pick, and I've seen that out there a lot as one of the horses on people's list. But I'm going to go with the actual favorite here in Omaha Beach, and it's not because of the trainer, it's the jockey Mike Smith, who won on Justify last year and rode to a Triple Crown. We tend to pick with I do and nostalgia and emotion a little bit, which can lead you astray. But Mike Smith, Ray, I went to a horse race up in Saratoga. I used to go with my granddad way back in the day, and we're talking mid-90s here, late 90s. Mike Smith was riding then and was a champion. These jockeys, they stay there forever. So there's a bit of a sentimental pick, but also the favorite, Omaha Beach, Mike Smith, your jockey. I like the favorite to win the Run for the Roses.
Well, you got the juice when it comes to put your money where your mouth is, man. You're red hot. So if I had to put money on something, I'd just say put money on John Wiener to get it right. So shout out to you on that.
Speaking of, big thanks to Waterview Sportsbook and Casino, our charter partner here in the Sports Lounge. And we're hosted, of course, by Waterview Sportsbook and Casino in Vicksburg, your #1 place in Mississippi for sports betting. Also, fabulous buffet there, hotel facilities as well. Nowhere more fun in Mississippi to spend a weekend than Waterview Sportsbook and Casino. It is good to have you back in the Sports Lounge,
back,
my man.
As always, always doing the state's work. Got one more to do. Knock on wood, when we're done, and we can make this thing, week in and week out, man. But so much fun to be back. Glad to be back. Looking forward to the next one.
Next time you're out, I'm just going to bring like a mannequin in to host with me, and then maybe, just maybe, I can get a W in game time. Hey, big shout out to Gerri Green with the Indianapolis Colts now, right out of Mississippi State, and shout out to my guy T-High for helping out with that. But Ray, really, really enjoyed welcoming in Gerri Green to the Sports Lounge.
Yeah, man, it was really cool. It's always cool to hear each guy's story from when they get drafted, whether they're at the draft or at home, playing cards or fishing. You always hear these unique stories of where they were when they got the call. That's always been cool to me to hear Gary's story and to know the work that he's put in and where he's come from and the Delta, man, and the things that he's going to do to inspire kids along the way. That's pretty cool, man. Congratulations to him for sure.
I know Gerri Green does not eat nuggets and tenders. Like, I know Gerri Green likes to bone in.
Well, he probably is because he's a phenomenal athlete, so he's probably the opposite of what I am. So no doubt about that tenders and nuggets are probably not on my man's list. Listen, man, I'm weird like that. I really am. I told y'all the story. I'm weird like that. My wife crushes me for it, but at the end of the day, nuggets and tenders, I can't do the bone.
No, you're not weird. You're the man. Your television's on Ray Coleman. For ISO, Joe Hagen-Hank, our director, Josh the Juice, our audio tech, and Ray Coleman, Waterview Sportsbook and Casinos, I would appreciate it. Remind you to share the show, like the show, follow us every week. We want to bring everybody in to the Sports Lounge. Great fun, great time, and great conversation as well. Join us next week in the Sports Lounge.